that make sense? So I want to connect with you, so I need to get into your experience. The way I do that is acknowledge that what you went through or what you're experiencing must be pretty tough. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else have a question regarding listening and how this might look in your workplace? Are you beginning to see how communication, how important it is, and how it can change your workplace environment just by the way we talk, the words that we use, the tone, the body language, the verbal? It can change your work environment, and unfortunately, people that you work with are not here. Well, some of you from Procter & Gamble are all here, but the people that you work with every day for 8 hours plus, because most of us spend our adult waking hours at work. I'd like to get along with people at work if I spent that much time with them. Communication, those tough circumstances. Can somebody give me an example of a tough conversation that you had to have with someone, or you've been the recipient of the bad news or some kind of tough conversation, and how you handle it or how you received it?
Coming in late.
Coming in late. Okay, tell me more.
Folks just not reporting to work on time.
Your people.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
I don't let the guy win.
Okay. Okay. How does that work? Is that effective?
For the most part.
Okay. For the job you did on this project. Interesting. Got a negative and a positive going on there in the very same sentence. Okay.
So I feel disappointed in the project results.
I feel disappointed in the project results. Very good. What about you never return phone calls? I feel ignored when you don't return my calls. Anybody have anything else?
A bit unimportant.
I feel unimportant.
But you called 15 times in 2 hours.
I feel like you don't know how to use your phone.
My mother-in-law.
I'm sick of doing your job on top of my own.
I feel overwhelmed.
What's that one?
When I have to do my job and yours, I feel so overwhelmed that I can't accomplish either effectively.
Good. Very good. Very good. I feel so overwhelmed. Good. Very good. Anybody else have one for that one? I feel used when I have to do your job in my own. So if I heard Pam say that, the responsibility is on me to fix the behavior. She just told me how she felt as opposed to saying, I'm sick of doing your job. That's going to put me on the defense. I'm like, well, don't do it then. But if she tells me how she feels, then I have the responsibility of correcting my behavior. It's a difference in shift how you communicate that. You're always late for appointments. I feel unappreciated.
When you're late for appointments, it makes me feel as if my time is unimportant.
Yes. Unimportant. Unimportant is a feeling word. Anybody else have one for that?
I would.
What's that, Robert?
I feel it would be in your best interest to be on time. Your next meeting.
That's why you might as well get a knife out. That sounds like you just stabbed him. I know this won't work. I know this won't work.
I feel convinced we can give it a try.
Convinced. Very good. Convinced. I feel convinced that we can give this a try. As opposed to, I know this won't work. One feels better. As opposed to, I know this won't work. It's going to put me on the defense already. If I hear that. I can't believe you forgot me.
You didn't call me, I felt left out.
I feel left out. Unwanted. Depending on your tone, that could be a little. Say that again.
You didn't call me, I felt left out.
Okay. Okay. I can't argue with that because I did leave him out. I can't argue with how he feels. So see how the statement is, you take responsibility for the behavior. I know I intentionally left him out. I have to accept that. I cannot argue. Well, you don't feel. Why should you feel that way? You don't feel that way, do you?
Last time you got drunk and you
Pictures, everybody.
Put it on Facebook. Your boss is really wonderful, except when he tries to get things done behind our backs. How's the top? I feel unworthy when your boss does things behind our back.
Feel betrayed.
I feel betrayed. That I was not consulted. Excellent, excellent word. I felt betrayed. Yes. Anybody else have one for that one? You are so pessimistic, it's beginning to really get to me. I can't work with pessimists.
They were really down on my answer, so I scratched it. Pessimistic.
We were pessimistic about your pessimism.
That's right.
What's one for that? What's an ideal statement for that?
I feel discouraged when I constantly receive negative feedback.
I feel discouraged.
When I constantly receive negative feedback because it affects the overall morale.
Yes, I feel discouraged because the behavior and when you do this because this is the impact.
I have a question.
Yes.
In a situation where someone says, I feel like no one ever listens to me, and there's a reason that's happening because you're being condescending, whatever. So how do you address that when the person who's saying, I feel like I'm not being heard, says that, and there's a reason they're not being heard because everyone thinks that they're condescending, that they're, whatever, arrogant or whatever. So how do you counter that situation when it's true?
So they
No.
are being condescending.
I mean, no, I say when they say, I feel like I'm not being heard, they're saying the statement, but no one listens to me. And no one does because they're arrogant, condescending, and so forth. So people tune them out and don't listen. So how do you address that when it's the truth that you're not being heard and there's a reason you're not being heard?
Seek first to understand. It's still the same thing. I had a situation with my stepmother. My father became ill last year and he died in December. But at the hospital, she was wrong, and we're talking about conflict.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, let me reserve that till we come back from break. Let's
All
talk about conflict and how to handle those situations where a person is wrong.
Right.
They're clearly wrong. But how do you communicate with them still based on their experience and their
Exactly.
perspective? So let's take a 5-minute break, and it's 2:30, and let's come back, and then we can wrap up. Be right, or would it be easier in the long run to get along with this person? In my case, it was easier to get along with her, so she could be right. It doesn't matter. If I know she's wrong, and I think she's wrong, and she thinks she's right, that doesn't even matter. Seek first to understand rather than to be understood. We want to let people know that they're wrong. That's what we want to do. We want to give them the satisfaction of knowing that they're wrong. We want them to know that we know that they're wrong. It's not worth the battle sometimes. You have to ask a question. Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And that's what I chose. And even in the situation you described, sometimes people, they just are who they are. And we can't change them because that's their personality. And their personality is not likely to change. So therefore, we have to deal with them from their perspective. He had a bath at 10 o'clock the night before. It was maybe 9:30, 10 in the morning before surgery. She felt that he should have had another one. She was wrong in the way she handled the situation. Even my father was upset. However, I said, this is who she is. What would we expect? For me to go out and say, Terry, you know that's not the way you should talk to those nurses. That would immediately send her defensiveness to a whole new level. As opposed to doing that, I said, acknowledged her. Terry, I know that they will do what you asked them to do. Times you specify at bad times, I'm sure they will comply with that. That's agreement and acknowledgement. If not agreement, acknowledgement. I don't have to like it or agree with it, but I did acknowledge it. She was angry. That's how you diffuse those tough situations and how you can handle conflict. Yes.
So I had a situation where I wouldn't necessarily rather be right, but if the situation wasn't addressed, it would happen again and again, and it would affect too many people in the organization. So I wanted to try to do something to diffuse it, and I don't think I handled it right. The person I work more closely with made an error in with a the other person that I don't work quite as closely with came to our office and, you know, to our lab and explained what she was looking for. The girl that I work with said, no, she had not seen the specimen. She'd never seen the specimen. The girl never brought it in. And she told her, you did not bring that specimen in here. And the other girl said, only specimen I did this morning, I know I brought it in here. Make a long story short, my person had misplaced the specimen. And when we found it and brought it to her attention, she just kind of shrugged it off like, well, she didn't take any responsibility for it. But she had been so ugly with the other person. I went to her and I said, now that we've gotten the specimen and we know what's going on with it, are you going to apologize to the other person? And she just looked at me like, are you crazy? Why would I do anything like that? And I said, I think you really should apologize. And I did it in front of, you know, the other staff people. I mean, the whole thing took place in front of people. But, I mean, it wasn't that I was necessarily right.
Right.
I felt like she was definitely wrong the way
Right.
she handled the whole thing. But, I have to get along with this person too.
Sure.
Because I work with her so closely
Sure.
every day.
Sure.
So,
Maybe-
eventually she went and said something to the person. It wasn't a real apology. But she just acknowledged that she was down this way.
That's just gonna get.
That was the best we were able to
That
get
might be
from
the best
her.
you're gonna get.
So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I don't know.
Maybe the I feel statements. The I feel
Yeah.
statement and
I
that.
kept trying to find an emotion.
Right. How did it make you feel?
How to make me feel personally. I was taken back when she was so adamant about something to someone. And then when she found out she was wrong, she didn't want to acknowledge it. I felt
Confused maybe, or whatever the word is that you, whatever you felt, that's the word that you use. That's the word that you use. So we have to be mindful that, you know, we're not gonna change people. We're not gonna change people. I stopped trying to change people because I thought I could fix them. I mean, fixers in the room. Oh, I'll fix that. Yeah, I'll fix it. Sure, for what? Just send them to me. What's the problem? Especially as people, we can fix everybody, right?
That's right.
It's been 2 weeks with me and I got it. I gave up that hat long time ago because I said, I want to be happy. Because that constant confrontation is not worth it. It's not worth it. Because people are who they are. I have to get the seat first to understand hat out and put that on. That's just who they are. I have to communicate with them from their perspective if I want to connect with them. It is hard. Oh, this is not easy. This calls for you to get out of your comfort zone. So, absolutely it does. Diffusing those tense situations. We saw that with the role play we did up here. So we talked about body language and eye contact, listening, empathizing. Sometimes you have to introduce a neutral third party when you have a tough situation. We have to call somebody else in who is not related to the issue at hand and find out what it is that they want. I had 2 women yesterday in my class. They work together and they consistently just butt heads. But they love working together. They do very well in working, but they both claim they have a problem communicating with each other. It's like, well, do you want to understand each other? And they said that they do, but I don't think that they do because they both agree. I have a problem communicating with her, and she does this, and she does that. Well, when I do this, she does this, she does that. So we have this constant conflict. It's like, do you all really want to work together? I have to ask, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? So conflict will usually cause us to ask that question to make peace. How many of you in your co-organizations, under your organization's umbrella, you have different departments that are bickering? You got accounting and sales, or you got different departments. What does that look like in your place, Wanda?
We have IT and the business area.
IT and business.
Exactly.
What's the conflict?
IT is when there's a new project to be implemented, we don't have the resources.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Hey,
when there's a new project to be implemented on the business side, we have to go to IT for the resources. And IT says we don't have the resources to do the project, to create the system for you.
Okay.
So it goes back and forth, and a lot of times we end up bringing in consultants, contractors to do the implementation for us. So, but it's an ongoing saga that never seems to end.
Does IT know what the business department does?
Oh, yeah, they do, yeah.
They know what you do, they know what your mission and the value and the goals are of the department?
And they know the systems exactly, yes, all of that, but again, it's that mentality, I think, that's been there for so long that I says we don't have the people, we're not gonna do it, and the business area needs it, so they just get some contractors to come in and do it for them, so.
Okay. Normally, the seek first to understand would work.
Yeah.
Sometimes they understand, it's just like, I do understand, and we're just not doing that. And
Yeah.
that decision has to come from management down,
And that's the thing, yeah.
and management has to make those decisions.
Right.
So the same way that you resolve the interpersonal conflict is the same way you would do with departments. What does the other department do? What do they value? What is their mission? What are their goals? Do a cost benefit analysis of each department. I had this conversation with a lady, she was a director of maintenance in her at a hospital. Well, the nurses would call the maintenance department at a certain time of day and say, okay, we have 30 beds that we need to be cleaned. Well, that would cause a problem for her department because staff changes, she didn't have enough staff to do all these beds at once. And the nurses felt like maintenance, it's like, well, it's maintenance. So they felt superior in their department. So you have this interdepartmental conflict going on. The nurses don't understand that they're delayed in calling maintenance to come out and do the rooms and get the rooms prepared. That caused some friction in their department. And then the maintenance department didn't understand how the nurses, what they do, what is their procedure? How can we resolve this conflict? Understanding what the other department does. What is your procedure? How long does it take to clean a room? What would be the best way for us to notify you that a room needs to be cleaned? Both departments have to come together, usually from management down, and find out what is the other person's mission and their values, and then offer support to collaborate. How can we help you? How can we help you streamline this process? Coming from that space of giving. And the law of reciprocity says what you give, you end up getting, you end up receiving. Goes around, comes around, moving and sewing, however you want to call it. It does come around. So if you have that space of giving, how can we help you? Just like the Ying and Martina, how can I help you? How can I help you? How can our department help your department? Would it help you? What would this do for you if we were able to do this? I want to understand what your department does and the time frame and the resources that it takes to get this done. If you can help me understand that, then maybe we can brainstorm on ways that we might be able to help you. Coming from a space of giving, you will definitely get it back. Maybe not from that department, but you will get it back because that's the law. So same way you do this in interpersonal relationships is the same way you do it in a department. Does anybody else have that conflict in different departments in your workplace? Same way. Offer support. When you have credit, when you get credit, the whole team gets credit. So we all get credit. The top management has to make this choice. Leadership. Leadership, I also teach leadership skills. Leadership is influence. It's nothing more than that, nothing less. Leadership is influence. So when the top management makes these decisions, everybody else will follow suit eventually. Eventually. Learn the goals and values, and how many of you go to the office parties and connect with people that you work with outside of work? Just never do that again. Just be very careful. Just be very careful as you connect with those people that you work with. Right. You want to be very careful. Very, very careful. We hit on this earlier about the verbal patterns. This is more in, I think, persuasion. Somebody said persuasive skills or something. Auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. We all have a learning style. These are on in your workbooks on page. Yeah. by visual reading, you learn by hearing, or do you learn by doing?
All three.
All three. We could do all three. We usually lean towards one or the other, but we can't do all three. People with auditory verbal patterns, those are the people that say, they might say, I hear, or excuse me, auditory, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. They hear maybe seminars, they listen. So if I'm trying to persuade you, you are hearing me right now. I hear what you are saying. That's my style, or auditory and visual are one of my styles. If I'm trying to persuade my audience, I've got all three in my audience. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, you have to keep in mind you've got all three types of learning styles. So you have to get on all three. I hear what you were saying. I see something to touch and feel, papers, a booklet, something like that. Visual, verbal patterns tend to prefer tuning into information. I like to read images, symbols, designs, and models. I can see it now, thanks for the clarification. That's the person that wants to report. So if you're coming to me asking me for $10,000 for a project, it would be you to learn my style. Because if I'm not a auditory learner and I'm a visual learner, I want to see. I want something to read. I want something to look at. I want charts. I want graphs. Along with my personality type. So if I'm trying to persuade a person, it would be in your best interest to find out what is important to them. They want to know about ROI. They want to know how does this benefit our department, what's in this for me, what's in it for us, how is it going to help us. Being able to paint that picture for them of what it is that they want from their perspective. Kinesthetic, that's the person who likes to touch, feel. Let me see how this works. I want to take it apart, I want to put it back together. So knowing the learning style, knowing your learning style, and then knowing the people that you work with who you are attempting to influence or persuade is very important in being able to get what you want. Does that make sense? So if you, how many of you are auditory learners? You learn by listening. Well, he's jeering a lot of you here today, thank you. And those of you who are visual, you've been watching the PowerPoints and, oh, how many are visual? Visual, okay. And then you have the kinesthetic, the ones that like to touch things. So your workbooks have been very helpful for you today. Very helpful. So knowing your style will help you when you learn, when you read, when you touch, or how you feel, but also knowing people when you're trying to persuade someone what their style is. So be very mindful of what another person's style is. Grapevine. We talked about that, and the originator of Curly grapevine is not California racist.
What was it, Marvin?
Somebody said the California raisins. That was obviously somebody that was young. I'm like, no, California raisins did not alter that song. Grapevine, I would just say be very careful with that. On page 27, it talks about how does a grapevine work. It's an unofficial source of information about what's going on in the company. It's often more trusted than official channels because there's this perception that it's the real story. That's not always the case with the grapevine. We used to have at the law firm an intranet. It was just for us employees, the empty groups, and most of us have that. And that's where our grapevine came from, the intranet, so we didn't have like a paper. But we just have to be careful because anybody could put things on this intranet. Anybody, anywhere in the firm could put things out there. So that might not be the real story, and we can take information, like I said, and run away with it. And it might not be the gospel truth. And rumors start by the grapevine, and you've seen this happen.
Just yesterday.
Really, just yesterday?
Yesterday.
Wow, what happened?
We had a man have a heart attack
Okay.
and
Maintain an optimistic spin, no matter how bad the news is. Positive attitude keeps customers, internal and external, on your side. Write the way you would speak in the same situation. Avoid the robotic business writer trap. Sometimes we're overthinking. Just write the way you would speak. Don't get too technical. If you're in a technical field, like an engineer or a doctor, something very industrial, you would use certain language. But normally in business letters, you would keep your letter right, your words business casual, your tone casual. Be concise but friendly. And connect with your readers. Don't talk at them. Same way we connect heart to heart, connect that way in writing. Just the way you would talk. Does that make sense? Some of the letters we used to write at the law firm, you remember, right?
Cold.
They're very cold.
Legalese.
Yes, very cold. Dear sirs, please, per your request, please find enclosed the x-rays that you requested on February 13th. Please give me a call if you have any questions. It's like, okay, that's direct. Yes, it's direct, but it is cold. It's not the way I would talk. I'm talking at them, not talking with them. Edit out anything unnecessary. Anybody that likes to put a lot of fluff? Don't put a lot of fluff. Don't put a lot of fluff. We're busy. People are busy these days. They don't like to read fluff, especially the S people, right? We want bullet points. How many do we want? 3. Right, that's it. We want 3 bullet points for the S's. Always consider your audience when you're writing. Who's receiving the letter? Is it a group? Is it a person? Is it an individual? Is it someone that you had connections with before, prior to? Consider that when you're writing, and write as if you were talking to that person. Keep your sentences short but not choppy. They say in speed reading, when you teach, when I've taken speed reading courses, you can tell what the book is about by the first 2 or 3 sentences of a paragraph in a chapter. You can tell what the whole chapter is about by reading the first 2 or 3 sentences. Same way with your letters. Don't put a lot of fluff in them. Make your paragraph short, but make your transitions from one paragraph to the next. Make it smooth. If you tend to, like me, oftentimes, your thoughts, you're jumping from one thought to the other often, make your transition smooth to the next paragraph, or the next thought, and keep your subjects together. So if you have you're talking about one thing in one paragraph, talk about that in just that paragraph. Don't talk about 2 or 3 different things in one paragraph. Just one subject per paragraph. Keep your word choices conversational and get to the point. No fluff. We're busy. Your active and not passive voice. The report is due on Tuesday. That's active. We will be working on a report next week. The report is due on Tuesday, so make it very active. Make the purpose and call to action clear. If you're writing a letter or an email, put at the top what you want me to do. If you want me to respond by 3:30, because I'm not reading down to the bottom. By the time I get to the 2nd, 3rd paragraph, you've lost me. I probably didn't read it. Because most of you get plenty of emails during the day, right? You don't want to read all the way to the bottom just to see that's what they want me to do. Your call to action should be near the top of the email or the top of the letter. I am writing to request whatever it is. The reason you're writing the letter should be right up front of what action that you want the person to take. Emails. How many emails do you get there? Just average. 100 emails a day? Depends. It just depends. How do you know which ones to read and which ones to just...
Who sent them? Seriously, it depends on who sent them.
Okay, who sent them?
Yeah.
Okay,
Order of importance.
okay, order of importance.
Order of importance by how important the sender is.
Where the person is that sent
Who the
it.
sender is.
Okay.
Or the subject.
Okay.
Depends on the project.
Subject, depends on the project. Your subject lines, make your subject lines. If you want someone to read your email right away, no matter who the sender is, make your subject line relevant. Put the subject, if you want me to respond by 3 o'clock, put that in the subject line. Need a response ASAP, or by 3 o'clock today. And when you CC, how many of you get CC? Most of those emails in your box are CCs. Many of them, are they relevant to you? Sometimes not. Just be mindful as you send emails that they're relevant to the people who you're CCing, and BCCs. Be very careful when you reply all. Don't do that. How many of you have gotten stuck in a situation because you replied all once or twice?
And then it's too late to get that sucker
You
resolved.
can't get it back. You cannot get it back. You're trying to recall it, and it just doesn't happen. It's out there. Once you press send, it's out there. This also works with text messaging. I just realized that not too long ago. Did you know that you reply all to text messaging sometimes?
Yes.
The droid, my droid, doesn't say that it's a group text. I just get it from the person who's in my
Right.
contacts. So when I reply to that person, or so I thought it was just that person, I'm replying to the whole group. I didn't know I was part of a group. It doesn't show as a group. So someone texts me, who is this? And I replied back, well, who is this? Because I didn't realize that the person had me part of a group text. And I think iPhones, you can see this clearly, but with droids, I don't know that it's that obvious. So I have to find out how to go in there and change those settings. So reply all, be very careful. I've had a person mention that someone was complaining about a manager, and the manager somehow was BCC'd or replied all in this email, and it got kind of sticky. Exactly. When you forward an email, are you forwarding it with why you're forwarding it? Good. FYI, or for your information, please see below. Very good, very good. Again, our subject lines, make sure that you limit your length of your paragraphs, one subject per paragraph. Okay, we are going to do a little exercise here. On 33, obstacles to getting your point across. The words can't, always, never, should've, could've, would've. These words keep to a minimum when you're in conversation or you're writing. This little word can't implies failure and the determination not to change. I can't do it. When you say to another person, I just can't understand you, you're in effect saying, I will never understand you and I don't want to try to understand you. So being very careful with those words can't. Always and never. That's overgeneralizing. I always do this. Or you always do that. You're never on time. That would imply that it happens 100% of the time. And the should've, could've, would've. When I was remodeling my kitchen in Akron, Ohio, I was remodeling 2 bathrooms and a kitchen. And my fiance was remodeling his bathroom. And we lived in 2 different states. And I told him that I was at Home Depot or Lowe's looking for bathroom tile. And he said, well, you should get the tile that I put in my bathroom. I put 10 by 13 tile, and I got it off the internet. I'll send you the link. No, we're not doing that. I'm going right here to Home Depot. I'm going to get off the shelves. I should've. It made it sound like he set the standard for what I should buy. Well, you should buy this. You should eat there. You should go here.
Tell me what to do.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. You're not the boss of me. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
Right, you're just my fiance. We're not married yet. So, the word. She's just like, all I said was tile. I just said go look at the tile. It's like, where did I come? See how communication can get this. There's a barrier there. The shoulda, coulda, woulda. So at the bottom.
Taking pictures of yourself.
Right. At the bottom of the page there, reword those sentences at your table using, reword the sentences to get your point across tactfully. So you still want to get your point across, but you want to avoid using those words that can't, never, always, shoulda, coulda, woulda. So take a few minutes at your table and work on those rewording